Hello everyone, welcome to WowYS. This is the 10th part of the June 2023 current affairs. In this, we are going to cover the environment part 1. So let's start with the today's topic first. First topic is Glacier in Hindu Kush Himalayas. Now, this International Center for Integrated Mountain Development has released a Water, Ice, Society and Ecosystem report for the Hindu Kush Himalayas. This ICIMOD was established in 1983 and it focuses on climate and environmental risk, green economies, and sustainable action. Now, its members are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan. Mainly, those countries which have Himalayan presence in them. Now, this WISE report, it has highlighted that water glacier disappearance disappeared 65% faster in the 2010 than in the previous decade. Now, if the global warming of 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius increases by 2100, glaciers are set to lose 30 to 50% of their volume as compared with 2015. Water scarcity. With accelerated glacial melt, peak water will be reached around mid-century in most NKH river basins, and overall water availability is expected to decrease by the end of the century. Peak water is a stage in which the supply of fresh snow water due to glaciers melt will be at the highest level. Now there will be increase in hazards also like floods, landslides, avalanches, glacial lake outburst, floods, etc. And are they are projected to increase over the coming decade. What can be the other impacts? Adverse impact on the biodiversity like genetic and species loss, alteration in ecosystem structure, increase in invasive species, range shift, etc. Socio-economic impact like crop loss, failure, fodder shortage, livestock deaths, migration, psychological impacts, etc. Deposited persistent organic pollutants in glaciers such as PCBs and are released into the water cycle. Decline in albedo impact of the heat budget on the earth. Now, Hindu Kush Himalayas, they stretch around 3,500 kilometers from Afghanistan to Myanmar and have the highest mountain ranges in the world and largest volume of ice on earth outside the polar region. The region is also known as water towers of the Asia. Now, what are the challenges in deteriorating situation in HKN? First is the poor adaptation capabilities. There are large gaps between the adaptation needs of the communities and their access to the necessary adaptation support due to financial and technical support. Due to lack of financial and technical support. Next, complex and unpredictable hazards. Early warning and adaptation measures are difficult to implement. Population growth and infrastructure development expose large communities to increased hazards. Low protection. About 67% of ecoregions and 39% of the global biodiversity hotspots that are in the HKN are still outside the protected area. Then there is limited regional cooperation also. There is neglect of international forums like HKN concerns are not given due priority in the international climate discussion. What can be the steps taken to protect the glacial ecosystem? India's ecosystem. India's initiatives. National Mission for Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem is implemented by Department of Science and Technology. It is part of the National Action Plan on Climate Change launched in 2008. National Center for Polar and Ocean Research NCPOR established by the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Research Station Himansh was established in the Chandra Basin in Himachal Pradesh in 2016. The National Institute of Hydrology is conducting several studies for the assessment of runoff from the melting of glaciers at catchment and basin scales. Global initiatives like Hindu Kush Himalayan Monitoring and Assessment Program HIMAP, then Mountain Ministerial Summit, etc. Framework for Regional Cooperation by United Nations Development Program and ICIMOD, then UNESCO's World Glacial Monitoring Services. Next is, what can be the way forward? Regional and global cooperation are needed. Improve monitoring network, building adaptation and early warning strategies, adopting integrated water resource management approach, then stakeholder engagement and communication. That is raising awareness among stakeholders, including mountain communities, civil society, private sector, government, etc., about ongoing changes and preparation needed for tackling them. Next is energy transition. Now, the World Economic Forum and Accenture has released this report titled as Fostering Effective Energy Transition 2023. In this, the Energy Transition Index was also published. This index is prepared on basis of three parameters: equity, security, and sustainability. And Sweden has got the first spot, followed by Norway and Denmark. India is placed at 67th place out of 120 countries. Now, India with Singapore are the only two countries making advances in all aspects of energy system performance. World Economic Forum, it was established in 1971. It is a not-for-profit foundation and is an international organization for the public-private cooperation. The key areas are fourth industrial revolution, solving the problems of global commons, addressing global security issues. There are more than 390 firms, over 60 countries that are its member, and membership is only by invitation. The reports released are Global Competitive Index, Global Gender Gap Report. The major initiatives include G20 Global Smart Cities Alliance, giving to amplify Earth Action, etc. Now, about energy transition, it refers to global energy sector's shift from fossil-based system of energy production and consumption natural to renewable energy sources like wind and solar. Need for energy transition in India. Reducing emissions and tackle global warming. Sector-wise, electricity generation is a major contributor in India's greenhouse gas emissions. Environmental impact. Fossil fuel extraction and combustion have significant negative environmental impacts such as air, water, pollution, habitat destruction, etc. Then fulfill international commitment. India needs to accelerate the energy transition in order to fulfill its nationally determined contributions and Panch Amrit pledge, such as achieving 50% energy from non-fossil fuel resources by 2030, non-net zero emissions by 2070. Then reduced energy dependency or energy security. For instance, recent economic and geopolitical developments such as Ukraine crisis have led to high fuel prices, reducing accessibility of energy. Then energy accessibility and affordability. Renewable power generation technologies, notably solar, photovoltaic, and onshore wind power, have become mature, cost competitive, and can enhance accessibility at different topography. Create green jobs. International Renewable Energy Agency's Global Energy Transition Outlook estimates 43 million people could be employed in renewable energy sector by 2050. Now, this is the diagram for Energy Transition Index Framework. Next is what are the India's efforts for energy transition. You can note down these efforts: National Offshore Wind Energy Policy 2015, National Wind Solar Hybrid Policy 2018, Green Hydrogen Green Ammonia Policy 2022, then Energy Conservation and Sustainable Building Code Scheme initiatives, National Solar Mission, National Green Hydrogen Mission, Renewable Purchase Obligations under Renewable Energy Certificate Scheme, Carbon Credit Trading Scheme incentivizes transition towards low carbon pathways. Then International Solar Alliance and its One Sun, One World, One Grid program, mission integrated biorefineries under Mission Innovation. Then World Bank's first low carbon energy programmation development policy operations. What are the challenges? High dependence on conventional sources. As of June 2023, total installed capacity from fossil sources in India is more than 50% of the total installed capacity. Financial constraints. Cumulative investment will be around $6 to $8 trillion that will be required during the period 2015 to 30 to transform the current energy systems in India. Then low private participation is there. Now, one challenge is of ensuring just transition, because unjust energy transition can exacerbate the economic vulnerabilities of the sectors and workers engaged in fossil fuel supply chains. Next is availability of technology. India still lacks the capability to manufacture large-scale low-carbon technologies, especially in the segments of offshore winds, hydrogen electrolyzers, and energy storage. Then inadequate infrastructure such as energy storage system, grid connectivity, transmission networks, etc. The related news: tackling SDG 7, the Energy Progress Report. It was released through the collaboration between the International Energy Agency, International Renewable Energy Agency, and United Nations Statistic Division, World Bank, and the WHO. SDG 7 provides achieving affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Current pace is not adequate to achieve any of the 2030 targets. Globally, access to electricity between 2010 to 21 grew from 84% in the world population to 91%. To enable an energy system aligned with that of 1.5 degrees Celsius target through the century, the share of the renewables in global energy mix must reach 33 to 38% by 2030 from the current 19.1 to 19.1 in 2020. India alone accounts for the largest share of the excess deficit, with 5.505 million people lacking access, followed by China. Next is coal-based thermal power plant emission norms compliant. The Center for Science and Environment has Environment NGO assess the status of compliance of the coal-based thermal power plants and SOx emission norms. Now, this assessment was based on the installation of flue gas desulfurization at TPPs. TPPs is thermal power plants. What are the findings? Only 5% of the coal power capacity has complied with the emission norms so far. 17% of overall power capacity was still at very initial stage of compliance. Now, Genesis, it is a statutory body under Ministry of Power constituted under Electricity Act 2003. Recent steps: National Electricity Plan for period 2022-32, guidelines on design, construction, O&M, and annual certification of coal ash ponds. It advises the central government on matters relating to the national electricity policy, formulates short-term and prospective plans for the development of the electricity system. It specifies technical standards and safety requirements for the electrical plants and electric lines. It specifies grid standards and collects and records data concerning the generation, trading, distribution, and utilization of electricity. It consists of not more than 14 members, including chairperson who holds the office during the pleasure of the central government. Emission norms for TPPs. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change first time introduced environmental emission standards for controlling SO2, NOx, mercury emissions from coal-based TPPs under the Environment Protection Act 1986. In 2021, government extended the timeline for majority of the coal-based power plants in India. There are three categorization with different timelines. Category A, which are within 10 kilometers of the Delhi NCR and cities populated with more than 10 lakh population. So the timeline has been extended till December 31st, 2024. That is by next year. Category B, 10-kilometer radius of critically polluted areas or non-attainment cities. So its deadline has been increased to 2025, December 31st, 2025. Category C, all other power plants, its deadline has been increased to 2026. Now, power plant units declared to retire before December 31st, 2027 will not be required to meet the specified norms for SOx. On water use, all plants with once through cooling shall install cooling towers. There is a temperature limit for discharge of the condenser cooling water from TPPs. Use of beneficiated coal. It aims to minimize fly ash generation. Coal beneficiation is a process through which combustion attribute of coal is enhanced by separating the inorganic impurities from the raw coal. Each TPP's generating station should achieve 100% utilization of total ash generated at the plant. Next is pollution control technologies at different stages in the power plant operations. First is pre-combustion, coal washing and blending. In combustion, installation of low NOx burner and over fire air inside the boiler are the in combustion controls available for NOx. Technologies available for post combustion are SOx emission, flue gas desulfurization, NOx emission, selective catalytic or non-catalytic reduction. When limestone injection is done into a furnace, is an effective combustion control application for SOx application. In the outside one, particulate matter emission, electrostatic precipitators, etc. for the fabric filters. Next news is disaster management in India. MOH recently announced three major schemes worth 8,000 crore for disaster management. These have been launched under the Vision 2047 to make India disaster resilient. The three major schemes include 2,500 crore project to reduce the risk of urban flooding in 7 most populous metros: Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad and Pune. A 25 crore national landslide and risk mitigation project for landslide mitigation in 17 states and union territories. 5,000 crore project to expand and modernize fire services across the states. Now, institutional mechanism for disaster management in India under the Disaster Management Act 2005 includes NDMA as the apex body headed by Prime Minister, then National Executive Committee which prepares National Plan for Disaster Management and National Disaster Response Force. At the state level, we have SDMAs, then we have State Executive Committees to assist SDMAs, then we have State Disaster Response Forces. At the district level, we have District National Disaster Management Authority (DDMA), headed by the District Collector, Deputy Commissioner, and or the District Magistrate. Now, what are the steps taken by India to move away from the reactionary and relief-centric approach? Holistic approach to disaster management. Government India focuses on prevention, mitigation, and preparedness-based disaster management at the grassroots level through steps like establishing National Disaster Mitigation Fund and State Disaster Mitigation Fund in 2021, undertaking prevention activities like planting of saplings, banks of 13 major rivers which are prone to floods, then developing advanced early warning system, etc. Indian Meteorological Department issues 5-day advanced forecast for rain and floods. Then enhance and proactive fund allocation. Release of funds from NDRF has increased by nearly 3 times from 2005 to 2014-23 period. Promoting use of information communication technology. It includes common alerting protocols through SMS Disaster Management Information System portal and Emergency Response Support System. Now, cooperation between states and union. Collective responsibility and response mechanism was developed at the center and state level. Involvement of community at grassroots level. For instance, schemes for training of community volunteers in disaster response. Abda Mitra has set a target of preparing around 1 lakh youth volunteers in 350 high-risk disaster-prone districts. Other initiatives for disaster management in India. Policies like National Disaster Management Plan 2016, National Policy on Disaster Management 2009 cover all phases of disaster management: prevention, mitigation, response, and recovery. NDMA guidelines for disaster like earthquake, cold waves, cyclones. Prime Minister released a 10-point agenda on disaster risk reduction. A National Disaster Response Fund managed by the central government. Then India is signatory to Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. And India has also launched a multi-stakeholder global partnership, the Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure (CDRI) in 2019. Now, what are the challenges with respect to disaster reduction? First is poor coordination. Multiple agencies are there. Slow progress at district level. The district disaster management plans in 87 districts and 8 states are still pending. Limited integration of climate change into risk reduction plans. Climate change has led to an increase in the frequency and intensity of disasters such as flash floods, landslides, droughts, cyclones, etc. Then capacity building and training. Insufficient funds have been allocated for developing specialized units for different disasters. Inadequate early warning systems and lack of infrastructure, making it difficult to provide timely assistance during the disasters. What are the related news? Coalition for Disaster Resistant Infrastructure. The Cabinet approved ratification of the Headquarter Agreement between India and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Cabinet approved recognition of CDRI as an international organization and so far signing of HQA for granting CDRI exemptions, immunity and privileges as contemplated under Section 3 of the United Nations Privilege and Immunity Act 1947. Act enacted to give effect to the Convention on Privileges and Immunities of the United Nations adopted by United Nations General Assembly 1946. Section 3 of the Act states that premises of the UN shall be inviolable. Act was also extended to several other international organizations. Signing of HQA will provide CDRI to an independent and international legal persona so that it can carry out its function internationally and more efficiently. It will allow CDRI to deputing experts and also bringing in experts from member countries to India, deploying funds globally and receiving contributions from member countries. Providing technical expertise to assist countries to develop resilient infrastructure and leveraging international engagement to foster disaster resilient infrastructure at home. Now, CDRI, it is a global partnership for national governments, UN agency and programs, private sector and academic and research institutions launched in 2019 by the Indian Prime Minister at UN Climate Action Summit, New York. Its objective is to promote resilience of infrastructure systems to climate and disaster risk, thereby ensuring sustainable development. Currently, it has 31 countries, 6 international organizations, and 2 private sector organizations as members. The key information: it will work at the intersection of Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction and Paris Climate Agreement. Now, next topic is urban floods. Urban floods are excessive runoff in developed urban areas where the storm water does not have anywhere to go due to poor capacity of the drainage system and causing inundations. Examples: New York 2023, no, so New Delhi 2023, Bengaluru 2022, Hyderabad 2020. Current challenges in urban flooding management: global climate change and urban heat island effect resulting in changed weather patterns and increased episodes of high intensity rainfall events occurring in shorter periods of time. Drainage infrastructure becoming easily overwhelmed due to inadequate capacity and poor management. Unplanned development and poor land use planning in cities leading to encroachment of floodplains and severe lack of blue and green spaces to absorb excess water. Lack of financial resources for implementing effective flood management strategies. For instance, retrofitting existing buildings and infrastructure to withstand flooding can be costly and technically challenging. Then adopting integrated ecological approaches which combine watershed land use planning with regional development planning, then enhancing capacity of drainage system by removing encroachments, redesigning stormwater drainage based on scientific methodology. Next is creating detailed flood hazard and zonation maps, conservation and restoration of urban flooding, urban water bodies. Next is initiatives to tackle urban flooding. Standard operating procedure for mitigation of urban flooding by the central and government under the Atal Mission for Regeneration and Urban Transformation. National guidelines on management of urban flooding by the NDMA. Then uniform system of alerts and warning, that is by Ministry of Home Affairs, categorizing alerts in stages for yellow, orange and red. Then integrated flood warning system like IFLOS, Mumbai. Similar system also introduced in Chennai, sea flows. Next is fires. Commercial complex fire in Sikandarabad, Hyderabad 2023, hotel fire in Karol Bagh, Delhi 2019, Upahar Cinema in New Delhi 1997. Current challenges in fire risk management. Poor enforcement of fire safety norms and building bylaws by the civic authorities leading to unauthorized construction, lack of regular monitoring and inspection, and obsolete fire safety equipment, use of unsafe and low quality fixtures. Lack of uniformity in rules and limited applicability of fire safety norms. Then capacity and resource constraints in the local government. Infrastructure issues like narrow lanes in densely populated areas which limit access to site by for fire brigade services. Negligence and low awareness among citizens to tackle the effective safety measures to deal with the fire incidents. Fire safety regulation in India. Amended Model Fire Bill 2019 aims at bringing the uniform law across the states for maintenance of the fire and emergency services. National Building Code of India 2016, published by Bureau of Indian Standards, contains detailed provisions under Part 4 Fire and Line Safety on fire prevention, life safety, and fire protection. Then 2020 Ministry of Health and Family Welfare circulated strict guidelines stipulating third-party accreditation for fire safety. Then NDMA has stipulated requirements for fire safety in public buildings, including hospitals. Next topic is cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is a kind of weather modification technology to create artificial rain. It happens when moisture in air. Rain happens when moisture in the air reaches a level at which it cannot no longer be held. Cloud seeding aims to facilitate and accelerate that process by making available chemical nuclei around which condensation can take place. It can only work when there is enough pre-existing clouds in the atmosphere. There are two ways of adding nuclei to the clouds: using large cannons that shoot particles into the sky, using airplanes that drop the particles from the above. IIT Kanpur used this method. Cloud aerosol interaction and precipitation enhancement experiment KPEX 4 was conducted during two consecutive monsoon seasons 2018 and 19 over Solapur, Maharashtra. Mainly 8 chemicals are used in cloud seeding: silver iodide, tri-ice, potassium iodide, propane, calcium carbide, ammonium nitrate, sodium chloride, and urea compounds. Cloud seeding. An aircraft injects silver iodide or other substances into the atmosphere. Silver iodide. The chemicals mimic the particles that serve as surface for the condensation that creates water droplets. Once condensation creates water droplets that are large enough, rain will fall. What are the benefits? It will help in drought management. It can be useful for drought affected areas. As per IMD, 87% of Indian districts are vulnerable to droughts. Clearing fogs in airports, flight forest fires, suppress hail. As seedings accelerate, hail embryos grow at lower level in the clouds, which where liquid water content is smaller and updraft is weak. Divert rainfall. Clouds can be used to divert to other regions based on the requirements, such as during 2008 Olympics opening ceremony, Beijing used this to make ceremony precipitation free. Improve water availability. Next is what are the issues with respect to cloud seeding. First is bioaccumulation. For example, silver iodide chemical is most commonly used to seed cloud is known to be toxic for aquatic animals because of bioaccumulation. Increasing carbon footprint. Cloud seeding through dry ice is a source of greenhouse gases and affects the climate change. Uncertainty on effectiveness. The World Meteorological Organization adopted guidelines in 2017 advising members not to perform weather modification activities without considering high level of uncertainty in effectiveness and potential harms involved. Next is not all type of clouds are suitable. Clouds must be deep enough and of sustainable temperature between 10 to minus 12 degrees Celsius to be seeded effectively. Last is disturbing the hydrological cycles. Cloud seeding simply redistributes rain in drought affected areas, which can ultimately affect the hydrological cycles. So with this we conclude today's topic. Tomorrow we will come up with the news in short part of the environment.